Welcome back to Endgame Community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris. Now, we're here to talk about who's number one, but not the number one pick. We're going to talk about the end of the season. Who's going to be the number one running back, number one receiver, tight end, and quarterback. That's right, we're making our early predictions, calling our shots right now. And let's start with running back. So Chris, take it away. Who is going to be the RB1, the guy who's going to carry your league next year?
I mean, Jonathan Taylor is the obvious pick here, but I really don't think he's going to repeat as the running back one. I think it's going to be Najee Harris. For as good as Jonathan Taylor was, he didn't have a dominant running back season. It was just all the other really good running backs kind of fell by the wayside. The reason why I really like Najee even more than Jonathan Taylor next year is that passing game work. Najee had the second most carries, but he led all running backs in targets last year. What did he lack in last year? Touchdowns and efficiency. Why? Because the offense was terrible with Ben Roethlisberger, and the offensive line is terrible. You got to think they're going to upgrade the offensive line. We know they're probably going to upgrade the quarterback position in some capacity. So we could see Najee Harris running behind a better offensive line, getting more chances to score touchdowns, and I think that's going to give him the edge over Jonathan Taylor by the end of the season.
Look, I love me some Najee. I think that he absolutely has the talent to do that. The question is, what is that quarterback situation going to look like next year? There's some rumors so far pre-draft tying the Steelers to Malik Willis or one of those other dual threat quarterbacks. To get a running quarterback, which Big Ben never was, I just don't know if that's going to cut into his rush attempts, goal line attempts. So, man, I really like Harris's top 2 or 3 back, but I don't know about number 1. So I'm going to be really boring here and say the guy who was absolutely crushing fantasy as the number 1 running back last season until he got hurt is going to do it again. That's Derrick Henry. Look, there's absolutely no reason at this point to doubt him. And I know what you're going to say because you've been saying this for years. He's going to get hurt at some point. You can't hold up under all those carries, and he got hurt, and it was his foot, and it was a Jones fracture, which is from chronic stress and overuse. I get all that, but he came back in the playoffs. He looked fine, right? Didn't lead him to the Super Bowl, but that's okay. For fantasy purposes, we just need him to be on the field, and the Titans proved exactly what I wanted to see out of him in the playoffs. They do not care if he's injured or not. If he's on the field, he's good enough to go. They're going to give him a full workload. There is absolutely no other player on Tennessee's roster, and there's not going to be next year, who will threaten his workload. He will get as close to 100% of the touches that matter as possible. He's a beast. He's going to get the volume. He's going to get all the goal line work. So I have no reason to doubt Derrick Henry at this point. And you know what? Injury risk, whatever. Every running back has injury risk. I was going to say Christian McCaffrey, but until I see something better from that Carolina offense as a whole, I'll still put him behind Derrick Henry. All right, now let's get to the next most important. That would be wide receiver. I mean, Cooper Kupp has got to be a no-brainer, right?
Well, kind of like Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp is the clear wide receiver 1 going into drafts. But there's a guy I think that actually will finish as a wide receiver 1 next year. Not Cooper Kupp, it will be Justin Jefferson. Guess what? Justin Jefferson now has Cooper Kupp's offensive coordinator. That's right, Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams, is going to be the Minnesota Vikings head coach. And he's bringing over a lot of the guys from the Rams. We've seen Justin Jefferson be absolutely insane in his first few years, playing on a slow offense, a run-dominant offense. We're finally going to get to see Justin Jefferson unleashed. And if he gets used the way they used Cooper Kupp, even 10, 15, 20% of the time, he's going to absolutely destroy fantasy football next year. So I really do believe Justin Jefferson will be the wide receiver 1 in 2022.
I think it's pretty clear Justin Jefferson is at least number 1 or 2 dynasty wide receiver. Is he going to be the redraft wide receiver? He's got a shot, but I'll take the guy who is, well, if Jefferson's number 1, he's number 2, or vice versa. I think it's Jamar Chase. Let's talk about another LSU wide receiver. Why not? Now, dynasty, yes. Redraft, why not? Look at how he ended the season. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I'm not just talking about the Super Bowl, okay? There were some times where he was open and could have gotten another touchdown, could have sealed the game there at the end, except that Joe Burrow was busy doing what he did most of the Super Bowl that was lying on his back. Look, I think it's pretty clear the Bengals are going to address the issue now that the entire world has seen the problem, which is their offensive line. A lot of people saying they shouldn't have drafted Chase, they should have drafted Penny Sewell or an offensive lineman last year. I'm pretty sure they're going to take care of that this offseason. They know their window is wide open for a championship. Didn't take too long. So Jamar Chase should have more time to work his magic and get open. We've seen the connection. We've seen double coverage does not matter to him. Just like with Cooper Kupp, they are going to force feed Chase the ball. He's going to get those deep shots. He's going to have those week winning type of games for fantasy. He does it enough, he's going to wind up as the overall wide receiver 1 because he doesn't need 150 targets. He's a guy who's just that good getting open on the deep ball. All right, let's move on to your favorite, and that is tight end. Seems like it's got to be Travis Kelce, but you know what? He wasn't even the tight end one last year. Is there someone else who's going to kind of jump up and surprise us this year?
I think there is, and I don't think it's who you're thinking of. I was really low on this guy last year for fantasy, and that's Kyle Pitts. Now, he was very good in real life, right? 1,000 yards, 60-plus catches. But for fantasy, he didn't really help your team very much at all. But I think that changes next year. I think we see a huge leap from Kyle Pitts in year 2. Look, he only had 1 touchdown last year. If he had 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns, we'd be looking at Kyle Pitts completely differently right now. Calvin Ridley, it sounds like, will not be an Atlanta Falcon next year. That's going to move Kyle Pitts into pretty much the number 1 target there, because even if they draft a wide receiver, that wide receiver is going to need time to learn the offense. Matt Ryan is still going to be there. It's going to be the same offense. Kyle Pitts has had a year under his belt. I think he goes over 1,000 yards again next year. We could see him get closer to that 80 catch mark. And if he gets, 5, 6, 7, 8, or even double-digit touchdowns next year, he's absolutely going to be the tight end 1, and I think he will. So for me, Kyle Pitts will be the tight end 1 after 2022.
Okay, I can see it happening because Pitts is that good. I just don't know if I can see it happening this year. That Atlanta offense still is going to have a lot of question marks. Matt Ryan maybe has seen better days. He's still fine, but man, I don't know. I think Pitts is going to have to wait. And you know what? I think the tight end 1 is still Travis Kelce. I just think it is because we saw late in the season and in the playoffs, they got their mojo back. No, they didn't win a championship again, but still, that passing offense did come to life other than the second half against Cincinnati. But besides that, they were, back to their usual self. Kelce is going to get force-fed the ball. You know what? This offense still revolves around him and Tyreek Hill, and that's pretty much it. Until he proves otherwise, I'm sticking with the guy who has done it year after year after year. I know Mark Andrews technically usurped him in terms of fantasy points this year. That was kind of an aberration because, Lamar Jackson out. You got a young and experienced quarterback in Huntley. He's, force-feeding the ball to his big tight end. A lot of the wide receivers were hurt. So, credit to Andrews for having a great year, but I think Kelce is still the guy until I am convinced that somebody else will take over for him. All right, and now let's end with a quarterback. Maybe the most important position on the field. I don't know about in fantasy. It depends on who you got. So who you got as the QB1 next year?
Well, I'm finally going to get a little boring here, and I'm just going to say Patrick Mahomes will be the QB1. I know he wasn't the QB1 this year, and I don't think he's been the QB1 for the last 3 years, but he's always right there, right in the top 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks. And like you said, when you talk about Travis Kelce, they struggled early in the year. A lot of teams, dropping tons of players back into coverage, but they made the adjustment and they became the Kansas City Chiefs offense that we expect to see week in and week out. And I think that's what we see most every week next year. And he also gives you enough running to, have that massive QB1 potential upside. So going to get a little boring here finally and just say Patrick Mahomes.
It's interesting because we saw in the last couple of games in the playoffs, Mahomes started to run a lot. That's not something that we had seen too much of, and he started running more than expected. That doesn't make him a running quarterback, though. Sorry, this is still the same offense. It's a great offense, but I got to go with a guy, again, who's done it, and now 2 years in a row, the QB1, and that is Josh Allen, because he is absolutely a running quarterback who also has a cannon arm. Look, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, first of all, you can't keep doing it, right? Just because he was this top scorer last year, the year before, someone's going to take over eventually. Well, if you can make a solid case for me of who it is, I don't think anyone still has his upside. He is still the lead goal line back for them, the guy in the red zone. He has not only a great weapon in Stephon Diggs. Did you notice Gabriel Davis all of a sudden looked like a #1 receiver late in the season? If he can step up and become a really bona fide weapon that is kind of equivalent to Diggs, this offense could even get better. We saw how effective they were. And, Allen is somebody who has already proven that he can do it. He's still in his prime, still a young player. Some people are going to worry, say, well, the coaching staff has changed, right? Dayball is gone. The guys who groomed him to be a great quarterback aren't going to be there anymore. It doesn't matter. He's already a great quarterback. He doesn't need them anymore. It doesn't really matter at this point who's around him. The great quarterbacks are, they don't need that coaching, right? Does it really matter at this point who Aaron Rodgers plays for, who his coach is? I don't think so. So with Josh Allen, he's got the passing ability, got the running ability. He's still in a great offense. I think he's the guy, QB1. All right, those are our picks. I have a feeling some people might not be 100% on board. Guys, let us know. Hit us up with a comment. Join our Discord to have some discussion. We talk fantasy football all year long. Information is in the description below. All right, thanks for watching.